Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and it's that time of the week with me and my good friend Skip, my brother from another mother, joins me today, and we talk about all the geek culture 411. How you doing, Skip?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hey, make sure you hit up mom, man. It's been a while since you talked to her. She's like, where's my
I'm
son
on the
Wes?
other side of the planet, son.
I'll let mom know you send her your best from out there in the Philippines. But man, always good to come and talk to my brother about some geek news. I'm ready to jump into it. And oddly enough, this week there's been a lot of big news. This is
Out
a
of
really
firings.
big. Oh my gosh! I mean. There's smoke in the air because people are on fire and getting fired. But let's start off with Disney. Of course, we know Disney's CEO, Bob Iger, is leaving his position effective immediately. Wes, does this spell doom and gloom for Marvel Studios and Marvel Comics?
No, I don't see that happening. It was interesting timing because when you look at what Iger's done in his time as the CEO of Disney, like it's so many accomplishments. Acquiring Pixar to be one of the a Disney family brand is part of the umbrella. Acquiring Marvel Comics and turning the Marvel Studios and the MCU into what it is today. Including some of the shows that they have out there. Acquiring Lucasfilm. The way he's built up the brand and everything. So I'm a little bit surprised that he exited right now with Disney Plus, not really, kind of off the ground, but not really going. Lots of complaints that there's not enough content out there available now. But that's not the only streaming service. They're trying to get ESPN. I think it's also called ESPN Plus going as well, and that doesn't appear to be going great. So I wonder if maybe this has something to do with this or do with that. But this certainly is not going to be affecting Marvel Studios or Marvel Comics. Marvel Studios is putting out billion-dollar movies multiple times every single year. It's one of the crown jewels of all of Disney's properties right now. It's a license to print money, and to have that, you need the IP, and the IP and the stories come from Marvel Comics. So that's certainly not going anywhere. I've seen all the weird speculation that Marvel Comics was done now. They don't care about it, and they're all this weird correlation. None of it makes sense. When you think about it, it doesn't make sense because it's not true. Marvel Comics is going to be fine, and I'm still waiting for Kevin Feige to show up and see what his role is going to be. But that's all that we're waiting for at this point. Marvel Studios, Marvel Comics are in a great place right now, even without Bob Iger.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, the only person like Kevin Feige wasn't really answering to Bob Iger to begin with. I'm sure they had their conversations. They're probably not even in the same building as far as offices are concerned. But Kevin Feige, if he talks to anybody or answers to anybody, answers to Alan Horn. Alan Horn is the head of all Disney video production. So it's not like he was directly dealing with him anyway. Definitely not doom and gloom. Kind of more to what Wes said. I'm more so interested in Kevin Feige finally getting freed up enough to take a break and really take a peek in over at Marvel Comics. I think the only peeking that Kevin Feige might have done at all, and this is pure speculation, is just looking at the numbers real quick and talking to not even CB Cebulski. I think isn't it Alan Fine who's like the head of Marvel or whatever, the president of Marvel, but just talking to him and be like, what do the numbers look like? And he's like, hey, we got 40-something% of the market right now. And he's like, well, it sounds like we're doing good. You keep on keeping on, and I'm going to keep cranking out these movies. So I don't think it spells doom and gloom or anything for that. And I'll save my next comment for our next topic because we are not done yet. It is still smoking. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Wes, who else caught the axe?
All right, the fallout from DC Comics co-publisher Dan DiDio's firing continues reverberating in the industry. DC's upcoming Meet the Publishers panel at C2E2 is now canceled. I personally spoke at length about DiDio's firing. To you, what's DiDio's legacy in comics?
DiDio's legacy is a little controversial. He let's not mistake the fact that he did have his fair share of success, and I say that as being someone who's not a fan of the creative decisions that Dan DiDio made and a lot of the personal vendettas he had against characters fictional characters, and Jeff Johns as well, as they had a clash of ideologies. So don't get me wrong, I am not the biggest Dan DiDio fan, but there is a reason why Dan DiDio even lasted the amount of time that he did. And it was because he did have a level of success while he was there. He often would, he wouldn't normally reboot things too soon. He wouldn't let them go on too long either, but he always would have an initiative, whether it be his or he was, or like Rebirth, where he had to, kind of just go in that direction. But he would let it go on long enough to where he would then reboot things, and then you got your, your fresh influx of new number one this, new number one that, this idea, that idea, and it would drive sales long enough. But I do think if you really consider the amount of success that Marvel started having, and then once they turned away from the all new, all different Marvel and kind of got back to their characters, with Dan DiDio at that time making a shift away from Rebirth and then starting to go away from what people liked, I think it just spelled doom and gloom for the comics. And then of course, everything that went on with issue number 50 and Batman, and then the Batwing and all that other stuff. I think he just started to build up enough of a case against himself. And then they looked at I think looking at what took Doomsday Clock so long to come out, and seeing how much how well it did sell and how people did enjoy it, and that them not going in that direction, Dan DiDio just built up enough a case against himself to have him ousted. And then in the work environment, like I said, I can kind of feel from his personality. I did watch quite a bit of interviews with Dan DiDio in them, and I respect someone who really believes in what they stand for, as long as, it's not like nothing crazy. But it came off of it as a very bullheaded man, and didn't seem like he was too receptive to a lot of new information that would come in or ideas opposed to him. So when he went into that meeting with all of like the retail people, and he chastised them, when he asked them how many of them are buying facsimile edition books, and I think that was also a business question as well as a personal question, and then the majority of them put their hands up. And then he kind of chastised them. And then once he realized he did, then he tried to flip it back to us. Well, but really it shows how much, that we need to do better and pushing, our new series of heroes and their new adventures further along, and their stories that need to be told. I think that was also one of the things that was kind of a nail in the coffin for Dan DiDio. But Wes, I know you really touched upon it and did an excellent video, a few videos really talking about it from people that might have been a little more pro Dan DiDio versus us that weren't really big fans of him. Can you kind of wrap up, your ultimate ideas, maybe as the last incarnation of what you might talk about Dan DiDio, minus this weekend?
There's a lot to wrap up there. One thing I never really mentioned in those videos is if you look at the writing and art talent at DC Comics, it far exceeds anything they have at Marvel. Just the overall quality of, especially the artists that he brought over to DC Comics and he maintained there, with better standards, also of pay and stuff like that. Definitely gives you an idea that he looked out for his people maybe a little bit more, and made sure that he had the very best people on hand and on staff to write for DC Comics as possible. So while I don't agree with his creative direction, I do agree that he did his best to have the best creators possible at DC Comics. So he can hang his hat on that one, and I'm sure we'll see him back in the industry again soon.
I agree. He will after he's after his time where he's supposed to be away, which is probably in his severance pay and his agreement. After that's been up, I would definitely see him back, probably at a a mid-level or indie, just doing his thing. And if he really learned a lesson from this, he might actually be able to be helpful over there, because he did get, what's that, like almost 20 years of experience over at DC. He might come back and actually be an asset to a company. So I do want to leave that window open for him. But I did hope he learned his lesson in being so dogmatic. And then on to the next thing. This one isn't so much of a firing, but boy, oh boy, is it still hot. Steven Spielberg is no longer directing Indiana Jones 5. The first indie film since Disney's Lucasfilm acquisition, Spielberg has long championed Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy after decades of working for him. Is Kathleen Kennedy is Kennedy following Iger and DiDio to the unemployment line, Wes?
I don't know, man. This is pretty bad. She didn't get fired after losing money on a Star Wars movie, which is shocking. Is that's actually pretty hard to do. I didn't think it was possible, but she still managed to pull that one off. Having an Indiana Jones film, it's going to be the first one at Disney, and not having Steven Spielberg, who was attached, for 4 years now, and now he's not attached anymore. It's not a good look. It certainly doesn't show a lot of like Spielberg has a lot of trust maybe in what Kennedy's doing or her position at Lucasfilm. Do I think she's going to be fired? Yes, I do believe she'll be fired. Do I think she's going to be fired this year? Maybe, hopefully. I mean, it definitely could happen. I don't know if this is definitely an indication of that, but we're also hearing other rumors where she's been banned from certain appearances and things like that, and maybe banned from having opinions or direction as far as the Mandalorian. I've heard that rumor as well. So maybe, nah,
Yeah,
probably not, but it could happen.
hey, a lot of heads are rolling right now. Not to mention, who is it, Dee Dee Myers or whatever over at WB as well, who's a spokesperson or like a PR person from over there. Used to be a part of the White House. So heads are rolling. We'll see. Like I think again, there's enough of a case, and I think this might be an interesting time because remember, not only was it the losing money on with Solo, and then of course not having a game plan from A through B to C for the saga and having so much fan derision within there, but also the fact that just recently we finally found out that the the Obi-Wan Kenobi thing was going to go through, and then right as we feel like it's getting ready to start, it gets postponed. Now, granted that they said it's still gonna start shooting, or excuse me, not start shooting at the same time, but it's still gonna end up coming out at the same time. That date hasn't been pushed back, but it just doesn't look good to have another hiccup in such a large production. And you mean to tell me that it had to do with the writing? Like, the writing is one of the first things that you start with. I mean, you can say, hey, this is such a hot IP, the name alone, we're gonna start production on it and get the gears rolling. But you literally, like, the point of it is to tell the story of what's going on with this individual. If that wasn't something that was stamped, with her certified seal of approval much longer, then that just tells me that she's unorganized or doesn't really know what she wants or doubles back on things. So I'll put it to you like this: with us not having a Star Wars movie coming out for a while now, and then focusing more on the streaming service, and then also with Bob Iger going more over to the creative side, and him, you're right, Wes. He, was, he made the acquisitions, he got it off the ground. Bob Iger ended up being a way better CEO than the person that came before him when he was their right hand man. I can see them, the new guy, Chapek or whatever his name is. I can see him letting her go, not necessarily making Bob Iger the head of it, but Bob Iger installing someone else in there that he can kind of feed through, and just making sure that they keep the train on the tracks. Because it's one thing to lose money on a movie, and that's bad, but it's a whole other thing to start jeopardizing the streaming platform, which I feel like is even more of a focus of their business, with the movies being put off for a little while now. So I can actually see it happen, and this would be a good time. Hey, we don't have some movies coming out that she can screw up since she's already messing up the streaming platform. Let's go ahead and get someone else in, and then let's go ahead and make sure that the movies are good going forward and the streaming platform is good going forward. So it would not surprise me if Kathleen Kennedy was gone early, but it's really interesting that Steven Spielberg had no real issues with her, and even helped her go from being an assistant to a producer as she was working for him. But the time that he comes and he works for her, there's immediately an issue and he exits the thing. I think that's very telling.
Yeah, I do think that the streaming service probably is the most damning thing, because they definitely need content on Disney Plus. But moving on, let's talk about some Batman. New set photos have given us our best look at Robert Pattinson's Batman uniform yet. And yes, I said uniform because I'm not going to call it a costume. Men don't go to war. Men don't go to war in costumes. We go to war in uniforms. For you, is it stock up or stock down for the Cape and Cowl and Matt Reeves, the Batman?
I'm not big on the ears. I thought it was interesting that they didn't really show them to us in the camera test, and then because everything else looked cool. I didn't love it, but I thought it was passable. I thought it was even good. But then they didn't show us the ears, and then we see the set photos with the step man with the full cow. I was like, man, I don't like that. Oddly enough, once we saw, I didn't really like the bike either. So I hope the bike looks cooler in the movies than it did in the set. But that could also just be like the stunt bike that has like less details on it because, you know, obviously he even put the bike down. So you probably don't want the best looking bike be the one that you put down on the ground for stunts. But the other thing is, it's more realistic the type of pants that the stunt actor had on, and they might not that might not be the bottoms that we actually see for the Batman uniform. But I did like, it's like the top half is cool and obviously takes a lot of inspiration from the from the Arkham series of games, which I did really enjoy that Batman costume. But boy, oh boy, did I not like, as more realistic as it might be, I did not like the pants and everything going on below. So, overall, I'll say overall, I'm not really excited. I don't think it's horrible. It's definitely not the worst, but man, I'm not really excited about it, Wes. Do you feel? How do you feel about the overall costume? I mean, not costume, the overall uniform.
Damn it, it's a uniform, son. All right, but it looks pretty bad. But you know, when they're shooting these in light and they don't have the effects on them yet, they always look a little hokey, kind of stupid. So I'm gonna imagine the eyes on that cowl are gonna be white, maybe like they're doing in Detective Comics right now, which maybe could look cool. But it doesn't look great. It certainly doesn't. I think the like I said, the ears kind of look stupid. The uniform is a little too clunky. I think they're trying to go too tactical with it. Maybe going a little bit too much. I do think they probably didn't want to get out there. So I was hoping for something better. This isn't great, but I do think when it finally shows up on the big screen and we get a trailer and we finally see that uniform and Robert Pattinson, it's going to look a lot cooler.
Yeah,
Most definitely after post processing and they do a little work on it. But yeah, seeing out in broad daylight, not the best look.
absolutely, I agree. And like I always think about that now in the back of my mind because, like, and one big thing that did come back to bite me in the butt, and that's probably an interesting use of words when I tell you why, is that when I saw the behind the scenes of Captain Marvel and Brie Larson in her Kree suit, the black and green, I was like, oh my gosh, that looks terrible. You can see her boots that are super thicker, making her look taller. She looks completely flat back there, like the suit is either too loose for her or something like that. Because she looked really, really good in the Scott Pilgrim versus the World movie. She had the curves and she had all that. So I'm like, I know this can't. You're not gonna jack her up like this. People already not wanting this movie. You really gonna make it look worse? And by the time the movie came around, she looked way better in her suit. So and that was probably the best thing about the movie was her suit, because I didn't really like much else outside. I didn't really like much. It wasn't a horrible movie, but I didn't really love much else about that movie. She was very wooden. But man, so I will say that if anything taught me that lesson, that's what I learned from Captain Marvel, is that behind the scene photos definitely aren't going to show you what it's really going to be like when you go see it at the movies. So we'll see. And then we got to wait for a teaser trailer, because that's where we're really, really, really going to see it the first time around. So, but moving on, more movie news. Paramount wrapped principal photography for the upcoming G.I. Joe reboot with Snake Eyes. On a scale of the Red Rooster, Terry Taylor, to Jake the Snake Roberts, how excited are you for the solo Snake Eyes film?
All right, so you landed right in my wheelhouse of like old school, like NWA and WWF wrestlers from when I was a little kid, and the Red Rooster. What a dumb name that is. Terry Taylor was an okay wrestler, but he got had a stupid red mohawk. But Jake the Snake Robert with Damien, he DDT, you throw the snake on you, beat your ass. That's cool. So this is clearly right in the realm of a Jake the Snake Roberts type thing. I'm going to call this a JYD, the Junkyard Dog, one of my favorite wrestlers growing up. The JYD headbutting a dude while he's on the ground. I couldn't be more excited about this. I love Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe. I love G.I. Joe growing up. Snake Eyes was absolutely my favorite character. It was my favorite action figure. I'm so happy that they're rebooting G.I. Joe, because those movies were terrible. They were dookie. I'm glad they're rebooting it with a Snake Eyes movie. I couldn't be more excited. The pictures look cool. Rob Liefeld's upcoming Snake Eyes miniseries from IDW, I think it's called Dead Game, looks badass. It's a great time to be a Snake Eyes fan like yours truly. And rest in peace, JYD. We missed you.
Absolutely. It's oddly enough that you say that. I watched the Junkyard Dog documentary last night before I went to bed. It was incredible. Definitely rest in peace, JYD. Yeah, man, Jake the Snake Roberts, that was my dude. Whoop you up, throw the python on you, or the boa constrictor. I loved it, man. I'm actually really excited about this. I wasn't the biggest fan of those movies either. I actually enjoy those movies a little bit more than most people do, but I do it from the view of like, you guys aren't really embodying these characters with the exception of Snake Eyes not saying anything. Like, okay, thank you. That's like the only character you got right. But Snake Eyes, Shadow Storm, always two of my favorites. I know Shadow Storm has to be in this, which would just make it even doper. So I'm very much looking forward to this. And I think with them seeing something like The Mandalorian working, another, silent warrior, if you will. I think this is a prime time to let someone like Snake Eyes, take the big screen and show what they can do. Obviously, though, when you have a silent character, it's going to be all, so much about making them look the dopest and the coolest, doing the dopest action and stuff like that. But you also have to put supporting actors around them that can really carry it for the times that it does need to be a dialogue. So that's the only concern I have about it. I don't know a lot about the other cast, but I am very, very excited. And this is actually a movie that I will be there first day to go and see. So I'm excited.
Boom. That is a good choice, my friend. All right, last topic. Former Batman writer Tom King and his frequent collaborators Mitch Gerads, Doc Shaner, and Clayman are banning touching during their appearance at C2E2 due to concerns about the coronavirus. Will coronavirus keep you away from large crowds or from touching people in the future, Skip?
Most of the time, it's people don't want to touch me, so I'm not really worried about it. That's the nice thing about being Skip is that people don't want anything to do with you, except for Wes. It's odd. You're the only person probably on this planet that kind of likes to keep me around, except for when you try to fire me. Well, see, you're getting too close, Wes. That's too close right there. Except for when you try to fire me off the show for the last few weeks, which is hard to do. I guess I'm like the cold virus. You kind of can't really get rid of me. I'm just going to plague society for years on end, and there will be no cure for Skip. Tom King, I mean, I didn't know that there was many people that, I mean, like Mitch Gerads, I'd probably want to touch his beard. I'm probably one of those people who'd be like, mine can't just get that thick and lustrous like Wes's, so I probably want to touch his beard. Outside of that, I'm not really interested in touching any of the rest of them. Clayman, I probably want to touch the things that he draws more than him. Coronavirus is I'm not really worried about it. I don't drink Corona either, so I think I'm good. Wes, are you upset that you're not going to be able to go to C2E2 and touch Tom King?
Nah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't give those guys fist bumps anyway. I just give them a dirty look, like I can't believe what y'all did. But I know what you did. That's what I'd be giving. But I wouldn't be going to C2E2. I can tell you that. Now with the coronavirus right there, Chicago is a main hub for international flights all over the world. So that is a prime time place for the coronavirus to break out in the United States. So I wouldn't go to C2E2 because of that. I'm already developing my own game plan here in my small town in the Philippines. What's going to happen if the coronavirus starts coming down to my island? And you think I'm joking? I'm absolutely not. I was in the military for over 20 years. I've been through countless years and cycles of sea Bernie training, getting ready for biological and nuclear and chemical attacks while I was in Korea, Afghanistan, everywhere that I went. So I will be prepared. My family will be taken care of, and you will not be getting any coronavirus in my house. I can tell you that.
A very good point. I mean, and I hear Corona is like, isn't it more about the concerns of it being airborne? Isn't Chicago the windy city? Probably seems like the worst place to worry about it. But hey, I did watch. I watched the address that our President Trump did yesterday. That was probably one of the conversations or the addresses that he had where he made me feel pretty safe. It seems like they got it under control. But then again, one of those cases that he talked about, actually occurred not too far away from me in Solano County, and that person is being treated in Sacramento County, my hometown. So, Wes, if you don't hear from me next week, it's not because I'm drinking Coronas. I might have developed a little bit of a cough, and if I can, it was nice knowing you. It was awesome.
Well, we do appreciate your contributions to the channel. You've definitely helped us grow. We went over 4,000 this week, and I very much appreciate all your contributions. Hopefully, you survive coronavirus, and I'll see you here right here on Thinking Critical next week. Thanks a lot, Skip.
You got it.